just one look and I'd get caught too. 'Cause there's something about you, and you know it too. All I do is think.
Welcome back to the shop, friends. This is part 2 in how to build a treadle lathe. If you look behind me, you'll see a bunch of lumber that I milled up, and that's going to be the frame of the lathe. And today, we're going to start laying out joinery. It's been a while since I made the first video in the series. This actually turned out to be a lot more work than what I was expecting. I've got the lumber milled here, and this will be the feet of the lathe. And then I have the large pieces here, which will be the uprights of the lathe. And then here I have the longer pieces, which will be the ways of the lathe. And these will make up the majority of the frame components. Before we get started with the layout for joinery, let me give you some measurements in case you're planning to build one of these of your own. So the feet of the lathe measure 24 inches long. Their thickness is just under 3 inches. And the width is 4.5 inches. The uprights measure 34 inches long. They are just over 2.25 inches in thickness, and their width is 9.25 inches. The ways measure 48 inches long. The thickness is 1.75 inches, and the width is 4.5 inches. Here is the original plan that we discussed in the last video on how to build a treadle lathe. We discussed that we would have the uprights, 3 uprights and 2 ways, and then the feet would attach to the uprights. I have made one change to the plan, and that is I'm going to shorten the uprights, and they're going to end in this area here, just like it does on this end here. And the reason I'm going to do that is because it's going to save me some material. The longer the length of the material, the more material you have to remove to get it flat. So lengthwise, I was going to have to remove much more material to have a perfectly straight edge there. So with shortening the uprights, I'm going to build a headstock that will be independent of the uprights, and it would look something like this. So if we have the uprights and the ways, I'll build an independent headstock that will mortise and tenon into the ways to hold it in position, and then the treadle wheel will be here, such as that. The first 2 pieces we're going to lay out is the ways. The ways are the horizontal piece that holds the 3 uprights in position. All the materials that I have already been cut to length. So now it's time to go ahead and mark out the tenons for the 2 ways. There'll be a tenon on both ends that will join with the uprights. The plan is for there to be a through tenon, and it will go through the upright a couple inches. So my plans call for the lathe to be 42 inches long, and that is from the outside of the right upright to the outside of the left upright. So that leaves me 3 extra inches on each end that will protrude through the uprights. So I'll go ahead and mark off the 3 inches. And then I know that my uprights measure 2 3/4 inches. So I'll walk over 2 3/4 more inches. Now I'll take my framing square and I will reference it against the reference edge, and these are the reference faces of the boards, and I'll mark the end of the tenon. And I'm marking both boards at the same time in order to create tenons that are equal for both boards. Now you can see that I have some bad wood here, but I'm going to remove that when I cut out the tenon. So I'm trying to work my way around knots the best I can, and I think that I'll be able to eliminate most of that when I cut out the tenon. Now I'll go ahead and do the same thing on the other end. Now the next mark I'm going to make is right in this area here, and that'll be another horizontal line representing where the second upright will be. So the first upright will be here, the third will be down at that end. So I'm going to have 6 inches between the edge of the first upright and the edge of the second upright, and that will give me room to have the headstock and the treadle wheel in there. So we're going to walk our way over 6 inches and then make another mark. Now we will do the same thing, and using the reference edge, mark that line as well. Now we're going to mark another line for the other edge of the second upright. Now the second upright is only 2.5 inches thick. Each one's a little bit different. I didn't want to take off more material than I had to. It just increases the strength by having more material if I can get it flat. But I know that it's 2.5 inches, so I'm going to walk my way over 2.5 inches. And then we'll go ahead and make a line there as well using the reference edge as our gauge. Okay, now that we have our reference faces marked with all the position of the uprights, now we need to go ahead and mark the edges of the boards. And to do that, we're going to use the reference face with our combination square, and then we will go ahead and mark where the position of the tenon will be on the edges.
Your eyes, your scent, your touch is all I dream of. Now I can't live without you. I hope you feel it too, 'cause we are meant to be. We are meant to.
Okay, now that we have the reference face and the edges marked, we will go ahead and flip the board over and mark the back side of the board. Now I don't spend as much time flattening the side opposite to the reference face, because that side doesn't matter that much, because all of our measurements are coming from the reference face and the reference edge. So I bring my mark around on all of my measurements, and then I take my straight edge and then I just connect the lines. Now we'll go ahead and do the same thing for the other one. So I mark my line, the position of my line, just a small little nick at all the positions. And then I take my square and connect the lines. Okay, so now it's time to mark the tenons. So what I've done is I've taken my 1-inch chisel and I've set my marking gauge to the thickness of the chisel, because I know I'll use the 1-inch chisel when I create the mortise in the uprights. So I placed the chisel there and got the width of the tenon, and then I've also preset my marking gauge so that it's in the center of the ways. So using the reference face, I'm going to mark the position of the tenons. The marks were a little hard to see, so I went ahead and marked it with my pencil. So now you can see where the tenon will be and where the shoulders of the tenon will be. So now we need to go ahead and mark the other sides of the tenon.
Oh, if only you could see that we are meant to be.
Okay, now you can see that I have the tenon marked along with the shoulders, and I've also marked it on the ends and on the other side as well. Okay, now that I have the first tenon marked, I just need to go around and do all four the exact same way.
Some obsess about things, some turn use into abuse, and don't stop until it's too late. But all I do is love you. Maybe someday you will too. 'Cause we
Okay, I feel like that was a lot to digest, so let's go through my notes here so that you can follow along and build the lathe for yourself if you choose to. So this is my notes for the ways that we just laid out. For the reference face, our tenons are 5 3/4 in length on both ends, and then there's 6 inches between the tenon and the area where the second upright will be joined. And the upright will have a half-inch area cut out of the way to allow it to join to the upright. Now the through tenons are 1 inch in thickness on each end, and then there will be a wedge mortise on each tenon, and that will allow it to suck up together very tight. We'll go through that once we get to that point. I'm going to round off each tenon just really for looks. So the main things today was that the way was 48 inches long, and we roughly marked out the tenons for each end, and then the area for the mortise on the way. So I think that's enough for today. This is a lot to digest. I think we'll do a separate video for the layout of each major component for the lathe. I really want you to be able to follow along and build this for yourself. All right, guys, what's exciting to be laying out some joinery on our treadle lathe project. We have a drawing to complete. On the 100 sub video, I promised I'd give away a t-shirt to someone who commented for that video. So we're gonna go ahead and shake up our canister here and draw a name. All right, Jamie Rudick has won a free t-shirt. So Jamie, what I'd like you to do is go to my Teespring site and pick out a shirt you like. You can find the link on my channel page, and then send me an email at lastingbuild@gmail.com. Send me the size you want and send me the address you want it sent to. I'll go ahead and get that ordered as soon as I hear from you. If you don't want to go to the Teespring site, just give me your size and address, and I'll still send you a shirt. I'll pick it myself. So thanks again for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you'll build a treadle lathe for yourself, and I'll see you on the next video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to look down for the subscription button and hit that for future videos. Be sure to look over here to the left, and that is the series on how to dimension lumber with hand tools. And if you look down to the bottom left, you'll see the series on how to build a Paul Sellers workbench. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.